Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
We're going to start in about 30 seconds. Let some people continue to join in. All right, so we've got about half the number of people in right now, but it is 11 o'clock, so we are going to get started today on the webinar. So I'd like to welcome everybody to this session of What the Fork Should I Eat? Thanks for joining this health promotion webinar today. My name is Jackie Lesarge, and I am a health promotion specialist here at CFB Kingston, and I am co-facilitating this morning with...
My name is Rachel. So I'm also a health promotion specialist here in Kingston. Been here for about 2 years and super excited to be here with all of you virtually. Maybe share with us in the chat where you're from, where you're joining us from.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, it's very exciting. We can still stay connected this way throughout everything that's going on. We hope that everyone's doing well, and we're really super pumped for doing this webinar this morning. So this is part one of a two-part series, just because there's just so much to chat about in the world of nutrition. So we had to split the sessions up. They are standalone, so you do not have to participate in both by any means. We just have a lot to talk about today, don't we, Rachel?
A ton. It'll be great though.
Awesome. So moving forward.
So there's just a couple of things that we'll discuss before we officially dive into all that content that Jackie was talking about. The first thing is that the content is the intellectual property of D&D. So don't record or reproduce this session. The material covered is created just for adults. The material today is not necessarily sensitive by any means, but the nutrition content is not created for children or recommended for any type of pediatrics. So adult information only, and do use parental discretion if you feel that it's needed. The best part of HP courses is the interaction between participants. We truly learn more from all of you too in that discussion. And the way that we can do that in these Demio webinars is through the chat mostly. So that's really easy to do. So join us there on the right hand of your screen. You're also welcome, if you'd like your video turned on or your microphone turned on, you can ask us that in the chat and we can do that for you. Right now, everyone's camera and microphone is turned off. For privacy reasons, do just respect whatever people ask or talk about in the chat. Do keep in mind that, if you're in the same room as other people in a regular kind of course, keep those same rules in mind, just having respect for everybody. And if you're watching this as a recording later on, you won't be able to see the chat or what's happening in the polls, but we'll be sure to read that stuff out for you and also maintain that confidentiality for anyone participating today. Bonus, this is being recorded, like I mentioned, so you will be able to review it later on. So if you think you have to take all these notes, don't worry. You can review this webinar at calfconnection.ca. And if there's any technical difficulties at all, sometimes I know my internet's a bit slow. If I'm lagging or becoming slow-mo, just put an X in the chat, and then I'll know to pause. We'll turn our videos off eventually to save the internet, but just let us know with an X if there's any technical difficulties and we'll troubleshoot. Any questions? See none, we'll move on.
Okay, great. Thanks, Rachel. So some of you may be new to the military community and are not familiar with what health promotion has to offer in the Canadian Armed Forces. So I just wanted to do a brief overview of health promotion's role in the CAF. So health promotion falls under Canadian Morale and Welfare Services. And underneath that umbrella, we have PSP. Health promotion is part of PSP, along with fitness and sports and ComRec and the messes, etc. Our main role in the CAF is to help military members and their families take control over their health and well-being. So we offer a variety of programming in 4 main areas of health promotion that you can see there on the slide. Our focus today is in our nutritional wellness pillar. Our focus is education, awareness, and prevention. We are not treatment or counseling, and all of our programming is standardized across all bases nationally. They're all free for military personnel and their family members 18 or over. And what I wanted to do is just provide a link for you to get more information about the health promotion program. And I invite you to click on this link. I'm going to share it with you over there on the right side of your, or it should pop up, I guess, in the center of your screen. And you can just put it in your favorites so you have easy access to information around a health promotion, and you can easily navigate to your local health promotion program page on there as well. Okay. Moving forward. So when it comes to just getting familiar with who's out there, who's in the audience today, we just wanted to do a quick poll with you. We are going to be using the poll function a lot throughout the webinar. So we just wanted to get a sense of who's out there. So I'm just going to throw up the poll question here on the right side. And we invite you to answer this question. How are you affiliated with the CAF community? And just to mention as well, these poll questions are anonymous, so we don't know who is answering what. So just so you feel comfortable answering, that we do not know who's saying what. And it looks like we have a pretty good balance of CAF members, family members, veterans, and civilian staff out there today. So welcome. And again, thanks for joining. That's great. Thank you for answering that. And then since we have been involved in, physical and social distancing. Previous to that, all of our programming was in the classroom. So we just want to get a sense of who has participated in the actual face-to-face health promotion programs before, and who has just simply joined health promotion programming via these online webinars. So it looks like it's pretty half and half. So half of you, or it looks like more than half, has actually participated in health promotion programming before, which is awesome. So welcome back, and welcome to those of you who are fairly new to health promotion programming during this very new for us as well, the virtual programming.
I think that's so cool that there's so many people in every webinar that, these online platforms are their first time hanging out with HP. And so hopefully you join us once we're back in person, because that's super fun too.
It is super fun. All right. Thank you so much for participating in those polls. That's great.
So jumping into that content that Jackie gave us a good glimpse of in the intro, Jackie and I are essentially here today to talk about nutrition and a lot of the myths and facts that kind of hide out in those nutrition headlines and articles that we often see popping up on our feeds or in conversation with friends or family. We're essentially here to help you make some better decisions when choosing what to eat, and how to be more of a critical thinker when you come across some of those too good to be true pieces of information. Overall, the goal today is really simple, and it's to help you know what the fork should you eat. So first, let's introduce ourselves a little bit more. So food can say a lot about our personalities, I think. So we'd like to know in the chat if you could be any food and it has to represent your personality, what would it be and why? So I picked nachos because I'm a little, I have a little bit of FOMO, some of that hanging out with friends, and nachos are like a great kind of party sharing kind of food, which is not what we should be doing right now, but it's something that I really enjoyed in the past. And plus you can make nachos anything, right? You could have, Indian nachos, you could have veggie nachos, you can do whatever you like. So Jackie, what would you be?
Well, one of my favorite foods ever is cheese. So does it represent my personality? Well, I don't really know, but I can kind of go on that social piece. There's always every social gathering, there's some kind of cheese plate, or I make sure that there's a cheese plate of in some way. And cheese really goes with everything, right? Cheese goes with everything, any sweet stuff, salty stuff, and it pairs really well with a glass of wine, which I like to indulge in as well every once in a while. So I would definitely have to say cheese. Anyone out there want to share what food they would be?
Yeah,
and why?
Chat. We're clearly cheese people. Our emojis here. It's all,
yeah, I know, right? It's all about the cheese. Fancy cheese and meat. Yes, wine for sure here. Yes. Thanks, Marka.
Wow, we are a crew here. We have bonded on our cheese and wine. That's awesome.
Yeah. That's great. Thanks for sharing. Chips.
There we go.
I love me some salt and vinegar chips as well every once in a while. For sure. Thanks for sharing, everybody. So now we are going to go to the polls again. So now Rachel's going to bring up a poll there on the right side of the screen again. And really with this poll, we want to do a little self-reflection prior to getting into the content, because it's good to have a bit of self-awareness of where your current eating habits are, because then you're better able to assess perhaps what you may want to modify or change in your current eating pattern. So we like to just do this quick little self-assessment with the group, so you have that awareness going into the conversation this morning. Okay. So we have quite a few goods, some very good, some fairs.
Yeah, really good balance. And it probably changes day to day too.
Oh, absolutely. Changes day to day. Yeah, absolutely. And it's very interesting because in the last Healthy Lifestyle Information Survey, which is a survey that has been given out to regular force military members every 4 years. And essentially it assesses the health status of military members with a self-report survey. And one of the areas of questioning is around eating habits and nutrition. And 83%, the last survey, 83% of military members reported that they had excellent or very good eating habits, which is awesome. It's great to get those type of results, absolutely. However, what was interesting is in that very same report, when asked how much fruit and vegetables they consumed, there was quite a significant difference in that. So very low fruit and veg consumption compared to excellent or very good eating habits didn't really match up well. So it's interesting to see. It just shows the perspectives too on what actually determines excellent or very good eating habits. But as you will learn throughout the series of What the Fork Should I Eat, fruit and vegetables is a huge component of that excellent or very good eating habit category.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Really go ahead, Ray. Cameron says, I know how to eat well, but it's difficult to put theory into practice. And I think that sums it up big time. Like, in our brain, we think we know what to do, but we have to balance with those physiological cues we're getting too, right? Because they do mean something.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. We'll talk a little bit about that as well moving forward. So we now live in a world where nutrition information is easy to access, right? Whether it be through the internet, social media, TV. We see a number of different diet trends and overall health and wellness of trends out there. So we know that it's highly accessible, but we do have to be careful because not all of it is credible. Sometimes it's hard to navigate and to filter out those factual and true pieces of information and those more false and mythical pieces of information. So that's what we're going to try to work on today, is taking some of those common themes that we see when we access that nutrition information and get some of the truth out of those pieces of information, so we can boost your nutrition knowledge a little bit when you see some of those headlines out there that are stating, more than often, some too good to be true kind of theories around nutrition.
Yeah, you're so right, Jackie. Nutrition can be super confusing. But why? Like, why is it so confusing? Why don't we know the answer? Why can't we just say, this is the ideal diet and everyone should use it? Well, it's confusing because nutrition research is still very young, right? So it is a relatively new category of research, especially in modern science. And the key there too is that a lot of the focus of nutrition research is specifically for disease treatment, not for prevention or for maintenance of health. So that's where we can see a lot of our food fads originating from. One example is like the keto diet really gained popularity because it was very successful in helping treat people with epilepsy. So a very small group of people, all of a sudden it's great for them, and now everyone wants to adopt it, but it's not great for everyone. Jackie, have you ever seen a study where it's like, oh, there's this one group of food and it's amazing, it'll cure everything for you, and then the next day you hear on the radio that that same group of food is now going to give you every disease in the book?
I do see a lot of headlines, especially when it comes to things like wine,
Yeah.
eggs, coffee even. There was one headline that came out a couple years ago, and it basically stated a glass of red wine is equal to 1 hour at the gym or a 1 hour workout. So that caused a whole lot of kerfuffleness. I don't know. That's the word that came to mind originally around the world of nutrition and physical activity and drinking wine. So what is up with that headline? That can be very confusing for the average person.
It sounds great, right? And I heard that one too. And when you look into it a bit further, actually the amount of wine that you would have to consume to get enough resveratrol, which is the hormone they were studying, to get the benefits that we get from exercise, it's well beyond human limits. And that alcohol damage would be way more harmful than any benefits from this one minute hormone. So it's very interesting when you start to dive into things like that. Don't skip that workout, essentially.
Yes, exactly.
And it's important to start with, too, the fact that, there's no one food that's inherently good or bad. So if we start off with knowing that, we can better kind of fact check those things that say, oh, this is amazing or this is the worst, right? There's neither good or bad. Mm-hmm. There's what's right for you in the moment. And the reason that happens is because of all these confounding variables. There's essentially so many different things that change food's effect for every individual. It's almost impossible to control for it. Doing the research is really tough for scientists, but reporting it is even harder. So it's really hard to get across this information to the general public as well. But just remember, no one is exactly like you physiologically, mentally, emotionally. So collect the information that's out there, but determine what works for you. Think of it as your own nutrition, your own experiment. What makes you feel good? Like you have a lot of energy, but it's stable energy. You don't have these peaks and valleys, and making sure that food isn't the only thing on your mind all day, right? We want to have that balance, and it shouldn't be like this narrow focus on food all day. So those are some places we can start with, and it helps take away that confusing factor when we see all these headlines around nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
So with all of that, it's easy to ask, okay, Jackie and Rachel, like, what the fork should I eat? I still don't know. So we're gonna play a game. We're gonna make it fun. So welcome to the game show, What the Fork Should I Eat? With your host, Jackie Lesage.
And Rachel Askett.
And
so, all right, everyone. So this is how it's going to work. We are going to go to the polls with a variety of statements related to nutrition. And as I had mentioned before, some of those common nutrition statements or headlines that you do hear quite often. We'll place that on the screen, and then we're going to ask you to vote whether you think that is a myth or a fact. And then we are going to debunk that myth based on, some concrete evidence or lack of evidence. Mm-hmm. So let's get started with the first poll. So on the right-hand screen, right-hand side of the screen, you can place your vote. In order to lose weight, I must be on a strict diet. What do you think? Is this a myth or a fact? So it looks like the majority of you believe that it's a myth so far. Anyone think it's a fact?
Anyone at any point in time think it was a fact? You can share in the chat too.
All right. So Rachel, what's up with this one?
You're right, it's a myth. But it is tough because we do see this information a lot. It's the classic infomercial story, right? You see it late at night. And logically, it makes sense, right? Less calories, less weight, diets must work. However, our bodies are way more complicated than that. And we kind of talked about that, in that nutrition research component. Diets don't take into consideration your usual habits, what you like, what you dislike. Your family meal preferences is huge too. So that inflexibility makes it really hard to follow for a long period of time or even enjoy it. And yes, you should enjoy food. It's a large part of our lives, and it should be enjoyable. So Jackie, have you ever heard of the term yo-yo dieting?
Oh, yes. Yo-yo dieting is very common because there's always an up and down when it comes to diets, right?
Yeah. So that's exactly it, right? It's that cycle that we kind of have illustrated at the bottom of the slide there. You're constantly going up and down, right? You think, okay, great. I'm going to start this new diet on Monday. Everything's going to be awesome. My life's going to be better. And then you start this diet that's usually focused on deprivation. So over time, that grows into frustration because, again, it's conflicting with our likes and our dislikes. It's conflicting with our own schedule, our family time, that eventually we end up giving up, right? We can't maintain this for a long time. And then we usually feel guilty because the messaging in these diets tell us, well, if only you have the self-discipline or the right amount of control, like this will work for you. So then we end up blaming ourselves and not the fact that this diet is just not set up for long-term human use. So then that further erodes our self-esteem and gets us back into that cycle. So when you're looking at some of these diets, take a step back when we have those inclinations to start a restrictive diet, because it does happen. Even me, sometimes I think like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna, change my diet a little bit. But usually that focus is on restriction. So I challenge you to be a pencil instead of an eraser when it comes to your diet. So instead of removing and restricting, start to think about the good things that you can add into your diet. Maybe more greens, maybe more fruits, more vegetables. And naturally over time, that will build up a really healthy diet.
Awesome. Thanks, Rachel. I think maybe for a little bit, we should turn off our videos because there's some lagging happening, I think. So maybe just to save that internet energy, we'll just turn off our videos just before we get into the next question there. And we'll come back. Don't worry. Our cameras, that's what we call it. All right. So the next poll. So this is an interesting one because I have friends who purchase these concoctions online because they want to cleanse their liver, or they want to lose a few pounds.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think? Are cleansing diets safe and effective to remove waste and toxins from our bodies? Is that a myth or a fact? So right now, majority says myth. Any other thoughts? Anyone think it's a fact?
Looks
wow.
like we've got strong mythers. They know their stuff.
Well, let's see, Rachel. What do you say about this one?
You guys are so smart. So it is a myth. There's no scientific evidence to show that cleansing maintains or improves bowel health, colon cancer, achieves lasting weight loss, like some of them may claim. Truly, our body is a high-tech machine. So when we take care of it with proper hydration, a balanced diet, our intestines, our lungs, our liver, our kidneys, they do the work of removing those toxins. So you can actually disrupt that natural process by doing a cleansing diet because it impacts your electrolyte balance. So that is kind of your fluid balance, like your sodium, your potassium, and a lot of what kickstarts your metabolism and just general function. Doing these cleanses can also negatively impact your medications, so be aware of that. Change your blood pressure, dehydrate you just in general, or cause deficiencies with vitamins and minerals. So it is actually doing the opposite of supporting a healthy you, and it's not recommended for that healthy diet. So good job. It is a myth.
Great. Thanks, Rachel. Now on to the next one. Get ready. Get ready for the protein debate. So what do you think? If a little protein is good and will help you gain muscle and lose weight, then a lot must be great. All right. Looks like majority is myth again.
Yeah.
What do we have to say about this one?
All right. So again, it is a myth. If you eat a reasonable amount of protein, it's very rare that the body will store protein or excess protein as fat. But if we start to overconsume protein, we will start to store that extra energy as fat. Our body usually prefers to store dietary fat and burn protein instead. But when we start messing with our levels, then we can start to see that shift happen. In general, you can think of it as 0.8 to 1 gram of protein per kilogram of body weight is a great amount for a healthy adult. If you're, an athlete, you're exercising regularly or have strength and endurance goals, then you can increase that to 1.2 to 2 grams per kilogram of body weight. Again, that's a big range, but we're not seeing a huge difference at those higher ranges of protein. So again, see what works for you. Make sure, you do that individual case study and see how your body feels. When we're thinking about protein, we also want to make sure that it's spread out throughout the day. The body almost maxes out at digesting about 25 grams of protein per meal. So you're going to want to spread that out through every meal, have that component of protein, and you'll more than definitely hit those protein goals.
Yeah, Rachel. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, no, I was just going to add protein can be found in all foods too, right? So it's not just in protein shakes, right? It's in vegetables, it's in whole grains, it's in lots of different foods, and lean proteins in meats and in legumes. So the more variety of food you have, the better chance that you're going to have a really nice balance of protein in your diet as well.
Yeah, excellent point. I was gonna speak to a little bit about that, but I also wanted to point out that in order to consume up to the 2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight, it has to be coupled with a very heavy strength training program. So powerlifters, bodybuilders, right? Their caloric intake is going to increase, but so is their protein intake along with that caloric intake, because the amount of stress placed on the body with their heavy training, that protein is vital for the rebuilding and repair of that muscle tissue. And it's very uncommon in this part of the world to endure protein deficiencies in the general healthy population. And protein can be found, as Rachel said, in a variety of foods, not just the protein shakes and supplements that are out there. So a healthy, balanced diet can more than likely provide you with the protein that you need to sustain, good health and performance.
Yeah. That's a great point you make too. Like bodybuilders and athletes, they're just eating more energy overall. So naturally, they're going to be eating more protein than us too. They're also eating more carbs and more fat.
Yeah, very true.
Not just this one macronutrient.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Let's go to the next one.
Next one. So this one is very interesting because I don't know if anyone knows who Oprah Winfrey is, but I used to watch her show, and I remember she constantly used to talk about her weight management trials and tribulations. And one of her food rules was that she never ate past 6:30 p.m. for fear of it impacting her weight. So what does everybody think about that? Does healthy snacking, even after supper or later on in the day, fit into a healthy diet and would not impact any type of weight loss regime? Do you think that's a myth or a fact? Oh, so we're more on the fact bandwagon for this one. All right. So majority of you say fact. Rachel, what do you think about this one here?
It is a fact. So hunger is a sign that we don't have enough energy. We're running on empty. So if you're genuinely hungry, you should definitely eat and avoid depriving yourself. Our bodies need fuel, and hunger is that sign. Choosing a well-balanced, nutritious snack is the key, though, to help maintain our metabolism and keep our high energy so we can be active and present and enjoy our days. The one thing I will say here, though, is it's key to be in touch with our body's signals. So thirst, boredom, habit can all be things that are confused with hunger. So know what you're really feeling, right? Is it habit? Is it, oh, I'm just bored, actually, maybe I should just do something, or maybe I'll try to drink some water. Oh yeah, I was just thirsty. But if that hunger still exists, get yourself a good snack, right? Make sure your body has that fuel. especially at night, right? Our body does a ton of repairing while we sleep. You might not think you need that energy, but you do. It could even wake you up in the middle of the night, which we don't want. We want to have a nice, restful sleep all night. So if we're finding ourselves that we're consistently hungry after dinner, and this is starting to be a pattern, it might be time to look at our meals during the day and plan to add more substance to it. So that's something to think about, right? What our body's actually signaling. And if it's becoming a pattern that we're really hungry after dinner, maybe it's time to add more throughout the day.
Yeah, that's great, Rachel. I completely agree with all of that. And it's important to note too that what works for one person may not work for the other. Calories do count when it comes to your caloric intake for the day and your weight management goals. But as you had pointed out, Rachel, our behaviors, our habits, our lifestyle, our emotional patterns, they all, at the end of the day, contribute to our caloric tally for the day. And it's important to note, like, again, back on that, what works for one may not work for the other. Going back to Oprah Winfrey, as long as she was getting enough calories, as long as she was getting adequate nutrients, and it was part of like perhaps a habit or her lifestyle, that worked for her. At the end of the day, that food rule, don't eat past 6:30 p.m., was something that worked for her, where it may not necessarily work for someone else. So that's important to note as well.
Yeah.
All right. Great. Next one. So this is a pretty hot topic in the nutrition world today. What do you think about intermittent fasting? Would all populations benefit from following an intermittent fasting regimen? Myth or fact? Looks like we have majority of people saying myth.
Mm-hmm. A few facts in there.
Yep.
So it is a myth. Currently, there's not enough long-term or large human trials to conclude that intermittent fasting is beneficial to everyone. Again, this kind of comes up when we look at nutrition as a means of disease disease treatment. Sometimes intermittent fasting works with small populations. However, there can be a lot of side effects. Those side effects can be constipation, dizziness, fatigue, dehydration, being hangry, right? Being irritable. And it's not recommended for military personnel because that fasted state can then impact decision-making, energy, alertness, and operational readiness or effectiveness. Also consider this. So our body actually has a natural fasting time built in. Does anyone know when that is? You can put it in the chat. Do you know when our body's natural fasting time is? Evening-ish, morning, kind of close. It lasts from evening-ish until the morning. It's when we sleep. So sleep is our natural fast. It allows our body to reset and repair. So if you get adequate sleep, which is about 8 hours, that has been the time that has been shown in research to be the ideal amount of fasting. So imagine, your typical schedule. Maybe you're up at 7, maybe you stop eating around 7 p.m. So that's almost 12 hours of not eating while we're sleeping. And then we wake up, we're awake, so we need to have energy. So we break that sleep fast with a nutritious meal and a balanced diet throughout the day to optimally perform because we're awake, right? So if you're looking into fasting, maybe just consider my body is already doing that for me and it has already thought about that and I'm getting those benefits when I sleep. So there is actually a handout if you would like more information on intermittent fasting or this is something you're interested in. It's now in the handout section, so you can download that for more information if you're curious.
All right, awesome. Thanks, Rachel.
Yeah.
Now, this is the last one that we're going to share with you today and talk about. And coconut oil, from what I have read quite a bit, it cures a whole lot of things, a whole lot of ailments. I've heard it many times. So what do you think? Is this a myth or a fact? Coconut oil is the best oil to use with many health benefits.
I just like the name of coconut oil. It sounds so tropical.
It really does. All right, so it looks like mostly myths out there.
Yeah.
So let's debunk this one.
This is a tricky one. There's no debunking here. It's myth and fact. So there's definitely some pros to using coconut oil. Again, we're kind of going back to the fact that no one food item is inherently the best or the worst. So let's start off with what coconut oil actually is. So coconut oil is made from pressed coconut, and it's a medium chain fatty acid, meaning it has less carbon bonds than other oils. Therefore, it's easier to digest. And again, this is where the popularity came from. Because it's easy to digest, coconut oil was used a lot in palliative care because you could get people the calories and the energy that they needed without taking a lot of energy for them to digest it or to eat it. So because it was great for that population, then it kind of got this health halo. So there are two kinds of coconut oil, unrefined and refined. Unrefined is sometimes called virgin coconut oil, and it's a bit stronger in taste. It's good for like salad, dressings, things like that, things you're not heating up. But then the refined coconut oil is more processed and is better for cooking at high temperatures because it has a high smoke point. So refined and unrefined have their uses. The high smoking point works well if you're frying foods and also if you're baking because it has kind of a nutty flavor, which is nice. And it does have a really long shelf life too. So it can sit on your shelf without going rancid for up to 1 year, which is longer than olive oils or things like that. So coconut oil, when it comes to health benefits, not just cooking benefits, is seen because it raises your HDL cholesterol. And that's your good cholesterol. So that's the cholesterol that transports the bad stuff out of your body. But it also increases the LDL, which is your bad cholesterol. So it's not perfect. And there's not a lot of research to confirm this health benefit either. So it's important that we don't completely kick all other oils to the curb and just eat coconut oil just because of this new trend.
Yeah, I completely agree, Rachel. We have to, at the end of the day, remember too, coconut oil is a saturated fat, and saturated fat has been linked to increasing the risk for heart disease.
Mm-hmm.
So we just want to ensure that is a fact. It is a saturated fat. And we have to remember that as well. And it's actually very high in saturated fat compared to other saturated fat products such as butter and lard and things like that. It's 92% saturated fat. So we do have to keep that in mind.
Yeah. So simply put, if you're still confused, if you enjoy the taste of coconut oil, you can use it in small amounts once in a while. There's not quite enough evidence to show it has more health benefits than other oils, like canola or olive oil. So if you're using a combination of a variety of different oils, you have a balance in your fat consumption. Overall, our body needs fat to function, so don't be afraid of those words, fat storage. Fat should represent about 20 to 35% of your total dietary calories. So mix it up. You can throw coconut oil in there once in a while, but also give olive oil and all those other avocado oils and whatnot some love too.
Awesome. Thanks, Rachel.
That's fun.
All right, another poll question for you. So if you feel comfortable sharing, we're going to ask you this question about special diets. So when we say special diets, we're referring to those diet trends, those fad diets that you see out there, Atkins, South Beach, Weight Watchers, blood type diet. There's so many out there. And we just want to know, have any of you who are joining us today ever tried one of those diets before? So it's just a yes or a no. And then if you feel comfortable sharing what kind of diet you have tried in the past, we invite you to do so in the chat box. So it looks like we have, about half of you haven't, and the other half have. Cameron says keto. We have Weight Watchers, Jenny Craig, Atkins diet. So yeah, those are all very popular diets that have been out there.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for sharing that.
Okay.
The Portfolio diet for low in cholesterol.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've heard of the Portfolio diet. Awesome. Thanks everyone for sharing. So to continue this topic of fad diets and diet trends that are out there, we're going to talk about one of those popular. Rachel has already mentioned keto already throughout this webinar, but this seems to be at the very top of the list when it comes to popularity in people adopting this diet. What else do you know about keto, Rachel?
Well, I mean, I've heard it's pretty good at helping people lose weight quick. So I've definitely seen those stories before. And kind of what I've heard, it's because that keto food is essentially caveman food, quotes there. The idea is like to eat like our ancestors, and that's better for us. But I'm not really sure what it entails.
Right. So some of those key points definitely are intact with keto. However, with the ancestors point, not everything old is necessarily good for us.
True.
So we want to keep that in mind. But when it comes to the keto diet, did anyone in the audience want to share some things that they may have heard or have tried when it comes to keto? Or what do you know? What are you familiar with?
And I think it's kind of been repurposed a lot too, right? So like keto is
Absolutely
kind of similar to the Atkins diet, I think.
Yeah, it has been compared to the Atkins diet, absolutely.
Yeah.
When it comes to keto, really, wouldn't it be awesome if butter, cheese, and bacon were considered healthy superfoods?
Oh, yeah.
Right? Essentially, that is what is promoted with the keto diet because it comes down to that composition of nutrients. Ketogenic diet, the advocates out there for the diet say that 75% of your total daily calories should come from fat sources. Where when we look at Health Canada's recommendations for nutrients, 25 to 35%, as you had mentioned, Rachel, of your total calories should come from fat. So there's quite a significant difference there.
Right.
And another key point from the keto diet is that carbohydrate intake, right? They're advocating a very significant decrease in carbohydrates. So only 5% of your food in the keto diet should come from carbs. Whereas Health Canada, carbohydrates should be your largest source of nutrients when it comes to your food choices, because carbs is the primary fuel for our brain and our body. So essentially with the keto diet, it's highly restrictive in that sense from your normal Health Canada recommendations. And following this diet, it puts your body into that state of ketosis. So what that means is your blood ketones are high due to that decrease in blood sugar because you're not eating very many carbohydrates, what at the end of the day is essentially sugar. Um, and because of that low carb intake, your body is using mostly fat as energy. So that is kind of how the ketogenic diet works. And as you had mentioned, Rachel, it originated and was developed primarily to help decrease seizures in children with epilepsy. But when we look at the bottom line for the keto diet, there is research that say, yes, it's great for weight loss, right? So you will lose weight on the ketogenic diet. However, that weight loss is very short term. Ketogenic diet is not a diet that can be sustained, and it has been found that long-term weight loss is very hard to achieve following this type of diet. And there's also more research that needs to be done when it comes to military populations specifically, because there's very limited information on how the ketogenic diet impacts specific military environmental factors. And of course, there's that physical performance factor as well. The keto diet has been shown to have a negative impact on one's physical performance. So it's not necessarily recommended for military personnel to adopt this type of specific diet.
Yeah.
Now, when we look at the pros and cons, right now, with the research that is out there on the keto diet, the cons largely outweigh the pros. Of course, with this specific diet, you're going to eat less processed foods because that is not encouraged on this type of diet. And yes, it can help with short-term weight loss. However, when we look at the other side of things, if you are thinking of adopting this type of diet, you want to kind of explore, do your research, and look at some of the cons associated, such as low carb intake not enhancing physical performance, because carbohydrates are needed in large amounts in order to perform well athletically and with your training. There's those side effects, those physical side effects that may occur, such as headaches, maybe nausea, and fatigue. And then lastly, there are some long-term issues that have been shown to occur as well with the keto diet, such as hyperlipidemia, which essentially means an increase of fats in your blood, and osteoporosis. So be sure to check with a health professional before adopting a specific diet like this, because it is a diet that, yeah, might be specific for individuals who have certain health concerns, and is prescribed perhaps by a doctor, or you're being followed by a doctor. Very important to get that information from a regulated body who can guide you and support you and follow you on a diet like this, because at the end of the day, you want to ensure you're getting adequate nutrients, you're getting enough energy to sustain your overall health and wellness. So we do actually have a handout that provides you more information on the keto diet. We encourage you to download it as a resource, and it does speak to some of the research and those key points behind the research around the ketogenic diet. So we're not really saying don't do the ketogenic diet. We're saying if you feel this is something that you could incorporate into your lifestyle, the big giveaway or takeaway for this is please talk to a health professional, a doctor or a dietitian prior to adopting a diet like this. And there are, of course, also modifications of this diet that maybe a health professional could help you work with as well. So really talking to someone prior to adopting it is key.
Awesome. Thanks, Jackie.
Yeah. Anything you want to add to that, Rachel?
No, but I do have another question when it comes to special diets in general. So
Okay.
I'm not sure if this new diet my friend is trying is good for me. So I'm wondering if you could help me out.
All right. Let's see here. So, it's a great skill to have in when you're navigating nutrition information is to be able to spot some of those red flags that may indicate something's not probably the best way to something's not right for you,
Right.
right? Or it's just not a healthy option for you to adopt. So I encourage the audience right now, as Rachel reads through this scenario, I want you to try your best to perhaps pick out some of those red flags that may indicate this may not be the best option to adopt to your lifestyle.
Okay, so I'll read it out. So a friend of mine started a new lifestyle program, and she just recommended it to me because we kind of want to do it together. They said the average person that does this program, doesn't need as much food as we think we do since we're less active these days. So this is really like the new modern diet. I investigated it a bit more, and it recommended, since I'm pretty sedentary, I'm doing webinars all day, to eat just under 1,000 calories a day. People who have done this have lost around 4 pounds a week, which is awesome. And I kind of want to trim up for my trip to the lake in 2 weeks. So I made a phone call to my friend's nutritionist that she's been working with through this company. And they said I can start as soon as the meal replacement shakes come in the mail. So do you think I should go for it?
So I see Cameron in the chat. Well, he says no. And one of the red flags is you have to buy their products or their shakes. You're absolutely right. That is definitely a red flag. When we go to the next slide here, we have highlighted some of those red flags for you. Mirka also points out the less than 1,000 calories per day is dangerous. Your body needs definitely more calories to exist depending on weight and size. Absolutely. So both red flags. So a friend, well, so we'll start actually, Cameron, with yours there. It says hunger suppression teas were bought as part of the program. So if a program is asking you to buy their products, really at the end of the day, it's not for your gain or for your success in the program. It's more for their financial gain because you can adopt a very healthy diet that helps you achieve your goals just by simply going to the grocery store and buying and preparing your own food. Mirka, when you speak to the less than 1,000 calories per day, absolutely. Restricting yourself to that caloric intake can have quite a negative impact on one's health. Maybe they're not getting enough energy, and then getting adequate nutrients is also a concern there. And really, restricting yourself to that amount of calories, is that sustainable? Is that something that you could stick to? Does that make you enjoy your life? Right? Probably not. You'd probably be miserable and hangry all day long. Another red flag is losing the 4 pounds a week. So 4 pounds a week is kind of a key red flag in the sense that it is physiologically impossible for people to lose more than 2 pounds a week of body fat. So that 4 pounds a week, it may include some body fat, yes, but it's also including perhaps some water weight and eventually lean mass. And we do not want to dig into our lean mass stores. If we're not eating enough, we'll dig into that lean muscle, but we need that muscle in our body in order to increase our metabolic rate. So we're burning calories at a faster rate when we are sedentary. So really be mindful about this piece. A half a pound to 2 pounds a week is ideal if you are adopting a health or a weight loss program. Another red flag is the friend. So testimonials and hearsay is the weakest form of evidence. And what works for one person may not necessarily work for you, right? You have to take in consideration your own eating patterns, your own lifestyle, your work, your own culture, family traditions, social life. All of those things come into play when adopting a new eating pattern or regime. So you have to be mindful of that. And then one last point I want to say is the nutritionist, right? Often salespeople or counselors call themselves nutritionists. Is a nutritionist the same as a registered dietitian? Dietitian is a protected title across Canada, just like a physician or a pharmacist. Nutritionist is a protected title in some provinces, such as Alberta and Quebec and Nova Scotia. However, you want to ensure that you're getting your nutrition information and guidance on a specific program or diet from a registered dietitian. They have a degree in foods and nutrition, they go through rigorous training, and they are a regulated health professional. So great job, everyone, on pointing out those red flags. That was awesome. And then these are some other diet red flags. Some of them I've already talked about, but if you're restricting whole food groups, if it's not offering support or follow-up, which is key when you are adopting a new eating regime. And of course, you want to know about all the risks associated with adopting some of these programs. And a lot of them don't talk about the risks. They just, place a famous person on the cover of their advertisement and provide you with, specialty products, and you're apparently good to go. So you want to be mindful and look into some of those risks as well. So you just want to ask those questions, right? Are you able to follow the program for life? Will your lifestyle fit into that program? And of course, you want to be successful in the program. So you got to look at those red flags and say, if I adopt that 1,000 calories a day, am I going to be successful in this program? Probably not overall or in the long term. So you want to be very, very vigilant when you are, researching or coming across some of those headlines and diet trends out there.
Okay, so if it's not keto and if it's not intermittent fasting, what is the best diet?
Well, I think some of the audience members definitely brought up this point. The fact that a diet that is healthy, it's nutritious, it's balanced, and that can be sustained for life is the best diet. And how can you achieve that? Well, it does not happen overnight. It does take effort. It takes time. You want to eat a nutrient-dense, balanced diet. You want your fruits and veg. You want your whole grains. You want to move it. So exercise is the best medicine. And exercise is often a motivator to making better food choices as well. You don't need specialty products, which we talked about. And you need to be consistent. And it's hard work and it's effort, and there's going to be ups and downs, and it's going to take time to practice and train what works for you, what doesn't work for you. There is no magic pill, there's no quick fix, there's no special concoction, there's no specific diet that is going to help you achieve your best diet. You are in control of that and you are in charge of that, and it does take time to figure that out. And lastly, reframe your thinking. Don't think of food as bad or cheating. You don't want to feel guilty if you indulge every once in a while. That is part of a healthy, balanced diet, right? Because it's going to happen. You're going to indulge. Food is one of life's greatest pleasures, and you want to treat it as that. So if you do happen to overindulge one day, which we're all going to do, if you think realistically, we're going to have those days where we may have a few more treats or desserts more often. Just enjoy that moment, enjoy the food, and then the next day, brush it off, and you can eat a little bit more nutrient dense foods the next days, right? So it's reframing your thinking around it and not putting so much pressure on yourself when it comes to, eating those less healthy foods every once in a while, right? So it's really being mindful of that piece of it. And I feel like I could go on and on and on with this particular point because it's so key. But we will talk more about it in part 2.
It makes a lot of sense though, right? Like it's way more achievable than trying to fit into a cookie cutter diet. So
Absolutely.
I'm pumped for part 2. I hope
Me
everyone
too.
else is. So I guess we can send you a link if you're as excited as we are. You can click the link for part 2 on your screen to register now if you haven't already. And you can join Jackie and I next time where we'll focus a little bit more than on using evidence-based nutrition and how we can actually start applying it to our own pattern of eating, because we've done all the myth busting and given ourselves that research knowledge today. So we'll look more specifically in building that healthy diet that's yours and yours only in part 2. So that'll be a lot of fun. Hopefully we see you there. That registration link is still live. There's also some extra resources that you can access, especially during this time when we're still in self-isolation. So you can screenshot this slide if you'd like. There's CIFMAP there, Canada Suicide Hotline, more information on COVID-19 from the Government of Canada. The Family Information Line is there, as well as the SMRC, or the Sexual Misconduct Response Center, Kids Help Phone, and the CMP Administrative Response Center. We also added a bonus resource there for nutrition information, and that's unlockfood.ca from Canada's registered dietitians. So really easy place to go and get quality information that has had all the rigors of research going into it. Last thing to do today before we answer some questions is just to get a sense of how you felt today went. So do you feel like you can apply what you learned in your daily living? So that poll is now live. There's a range of strongly disagree to strongly agree. Let us know. And while you're hanging out in the polls there and sending in your answer, does anyone have any additional questions about today or about what we talked about? We can hang out for a little bit in case a question pops up in your mind, but from Jackie and I both, thank you for hanging out with us. We could talk about this forever, which we did kind of go over on time, so thank you for sticking there with us. Everybody enjoy your lunch now, and take time to enjoy that food, and see you next time.
Yeah, thanks everyone. This was fun. We hope to see you not next week, the week after on the 13th. So have a great day, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
All right.
That's awesome.
Cool. I think we can end it.
All right. Okay. Bye.
See ya.